So have you managed to get to the fruit?
So the first one was what shape is it? Round. Do you see the next one? Yes.
No. So okay, so what fruit is that? Do you know the name of that fruit?
No.
Anyone? Anyone can help? The two kids?
Apricot.
No,
Apricot, very good. Let's give a round of applause for that. Okay. Second one, any volunteers? Shailin?
Rajima, you are saying you have 2 or 3 years old, but the question was hard.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Come on. Who is going to be the 2-year-old?
So now we have something different. Can you see the different thing?
You mean here?
Yes, that there.
Okay.
It's a different shape from the one before. What shape is this? Is it round?
No, I don't know.
It's long.
Yes.
And is it the same color as the first one?
No.
What color is this one?
I don't know.
What colors can you see?
It's yellow,
Yes. And a little bit of,
blue.
no, it's green.
Oh, it's
So this one's going to be different from the one that we saw before, isn't it? Because the shape is different, the color is different. Feel it.
okay.
And feel the first one. It feels different, yes?
Yes.
So this is different both in color, texture, and I'm sure it will be in taste when you get to taste it a bit later. But also, have a look. How many can you hold in your hand of the first one? How many hands do you need to hold that first one?
Fun.
And if you went to hold the next one, how many hands do you need to use? Can you hold it all just with one, or is it more than one?
No, I can't pick it up.
And if you were to put one in each hand, can you hold it?
It's too big.
Turn your hands the other way. Yeah, let me help.
And any idea of the name?
Papaya?
Wrong?
Star.
Wrong?
No, dragon.
We have to say we are doing alphabet, so it's going to be A. So there has to be a clue there. What's going to be the after A?
Is it banana?
No.
Banana. Anyone who's got your mobile phones, take them out and type in a Venezuelan fruit beginning with B. Can anyone take out your phones and find out the name of this? A Venezuelan fruit beginning with letter B. It's a cousin of papaya. While someone's searching, why don't you go to another pair, the third one? Who's going to go? Third one? We have to ask the famous ones. The two naughty ones.
Are you 2 years old?
Daddy?
You might look like a daddy. Okay. I'm hungry.
Okay.
Go talk to your mother. So, can you see what this is?
I see food.
Are they looking at pictures or actually they've got the thing?
Yeah, so first of all, the objective is to count and then the name the fruit.
Okay, so can you see how many can you see there? Can you see that's one? Can you say one? One, and now I've got two. now I've got one more. What comes after 2? Nemish.
3.
Very good. Now, can you see what kind of food it is?
It's orange.
Yep. Is it soft?
I've never tasted it.
Yeah. I can rub it in your face in a minute. It's soft. Can you see it's got lots and lots of seeds in the middle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I eat them?
You can't eat the seeds, but you can have the fruit. It's very sweet.
Alright, make it quicker. Is it a melon?
Does that start with a C? Might be a cantaloupe.
I was wrecking my brain. What's his spelling? Gujarati? Huh? Chibru, okay. Right. And then for the one in B, you got the answer?
Babao.
Babako. Oh,
Babako.
Yeah, babako. So it's a cousin of papaya, but it's native to Venezuelan, and it's called babako. And the last one, Tame, pair?
Again alphabetically?
It has to, yeah, definitely alphabetically.
That's a fruit. Would you like to taste it? Okay, how many do we have there? 4. Oh, that's good. How do you feel? What sort of texture do you feel there? Sweet. And is it quite spiky? Yeah, do you think you know what it is?
Not quite.
Looks like a dragon fruit, but not really.
Yeah. So you got it. Say the fruit is durian. Anyone get it? In fact, it's quite strange. You said it's sweet. When I read the review, some people said that it's actually one of the most horrendous tasting. It actually sometimes tastes like rotten flesh. So and some people like it and some people don't like it. I mean, I think a few years ago when we went to Singapore, they actually, even on the metro stations, they said that durian fruits are prohibited on the metro station because of the smell. So, but it's such a fruit that some will like it and some hate it with passion. So, okay, so the point of this exercise is, what we've now found is that as young children, not only through letters, but this is how people actually start learning and understanding. So, through just by using letters and counting, how the mind is just expanding and you're learning one thing. So we didn't just learn about 1, 2, 3, 4, but in that process we are learning more about the fruits, where they come from, and it's such a wide topic. So that's the theme of today's talk. Just through numbers, like let's understand more about the Jain philosophy and how the pattern is going to be. It's going to be going through one topic to the other topic. So we're going to be jumping around and learning more about the Jain philosophy, but through numbers. So it just shows that numbers are important and we can learn such diverse aspects from that. Now numbers, can you imagine how important numbers are? Can you imagine a world without numbers? I mean, everything has to do with numbers, phone numbers, time, date. Can you imagine a blood, when you get a blood report, isn't it very astounding that just a simple drop of blood, just literally one drop of blood, how much information does that give you? It will tell you about your vitamins, it will tell you about the sugar, if you have got lots of infection, it will tell you about that. So just one single drop of blood, and it's only one measure. It will have different measures. Protein is this many micrograms or milligrams, this has got that many. So just one single drop of blood, you analyze it and you can get a plethora of information just with that. And it's all through numbers. How much white blood cells do you have in them? How much red blood cells? How many platelets do you have in that? It's all a number of, and if the numbers are high, then that indicates an infection. If it's low, it tells the doctors different things. It's all through numbers. Just a single drop of blood. This is more closer to heart. Most of us here are Baniyas, accountants. So cash flow statements, balance sheet, income statement. If you look at the olden days, ledger, cash balances. People used to do accounts karwache. So we had our own spreadsheets way back then. So people all to do with numbers. Astronomy. Can you imagine that although we are used to numbers, astronomy again it's all to do with numbers, and although we might not use the conventional thousands and millions and billions, we now have to go a bit higher and say light years. So again, through numbers. Look at pi. Amazing. And it's just amazing how even this concept of pi came across. And in fact, there was a record that 22/7 is pi, and there's a record of someone in India, he's memorized 70,030 of these digits. Can you imagine? That's how much, it's a recurring digit. And what is pi? A simple concept that if you got a circle, the ratio of the circumference over the diameter would be the pi. So 2 pi r is equal to circumference. So literally pi would be circumference over 2r, which is the diameter. So literally you take any circle and you find the diameter, that ratio will always be constant, 22/7 or pi, 3.14. A phenomenal observation which scientists have come across. And pi is amazing. Pi is used for everything. Pi is used in finance, pi is used in statistics, pi is used in astronomy. It's just an amazing concept of how this number is used in so many diverse applications. All to do with numbers again. Another very common matrix is who is the richest man in the world. So again, we'll have a list. Money, it's all to do with numbers. 5 billion, 10 billion, 50 billion, who is the richest man? And in fact, this was quite common. I mean, when I grew up in Kenya, it was a very common thing to do. You go to social parties and there was a common thing to do. Oh, ani networks ketli cha, ketla no ase. Any pasal gadi am che, anu garam che. We are so obsessed with these kind of numbers. What do you think how much this guy is worth? So, and that's even now in economics, you have the Forbes magazine outlining the numbers here. Look at numbers and everywhere. Biology, physics, chemistry, astronomy, economics. You got the periodic table. You got physics. All walks of life, you would be using numbers. And in fact, the fourth agam. So when we are 12 Jain agams, the fourth agam, Samavayang, it's all to do with numbers. So what the agam? In fact, that's the next slide. So this agam, actually there is an English copy. You can go into Jaini library, there's an English copy. All what it does is to explain Jain concepts and principles through numbers. 1 of this, 2 of this, 3 of this, 4 of this, and it goes on, and how you can actually understand more about the Jain philosophy just purely through numbers. So when we start, let's now start off with the numbers. So what will we start counting numbers from?
0.
Good, 0. Okay, so let's look at 0. So one big fat 0. So rather than 1, we start counting with 0. Now 0 essentially means nothing. So right now there is something on the table. There is one thing on the table. If I now remove it, if I ask you how many things are on the table? 0 or nothing. But it's a very important concept. What does nothing really mean? Does nothing really, so if you say nothing, no thing or not anything, that means nothing means I cannot see it, it's not there. But has it really disappeared? Does it not exist anymore?
It exists.
It exists. So the concept of nothing or 0 does not mean that something does not exist. That's a very important thing to know. Because right now, as we know, both science and even Jainism says that anything which is present cannot be destroyed. Nothing can be destroyed. So when we cannot say something is totally 0, it's very difficult to say something is absolutely 0. Because when we say something is not there, it's out of our sight. Or even if we say, for example, you had a piece of paper here, and I put into a shredder, and it's shredded into small pieces, and even smaller pieces, it cannot be totally destroyed, because as we know, the principle of the conservation of matter says nothing can be ever destroyed. You can transform something, but you cannot totally destroy. The particles of this paper can never ever disappear. They'll always be transformed into something else. Maybe I cannot see it, but it's still there. In fact, recently there was an exhibition in the Science Museum, and they were saying that 0 was actually invented in India. And they were saying that Aryabhat, an Indian mathematician, he's actually discovered this whole concept of 0. Now, let's look at the Jain universe. In Jainism, do we believe, is there any concept of like 0, that something just does not exist? Something ever does not exist. So even if you look at this space room right now, let's say we all leave this room. It's empty. It's nothing in there. Does it really mean that nothing is there? There's always going to be something, and even if something is not there which we cannot see with our eyes, you'll still believe that this air has got microorganisms, that we cannot see them. They are going to be particles of matter which you can't see. So according to my understanding, this is the Jain universe. And when we look at the Jain universe, that even all what the scientists portray, that all the galaxies and everything is contained within this Jain universe. And within this Jain universe, there's always two things which Jains say, matter or soul. These are the only two existent things which is there. So no matter which part of the universe you are, you can be talking of any distant galaxies or wherever you go, but you always find matter and or soul. Souls we might not see with the naked eye, so you can have microorganisms, ekindriya, beindriya, teindriya. So all particles of matter which you could see or you could not see. Like karma is particles of matter, but you can't see karmic particles. But they're particles of matter according to Jain philosophy. So essentially, in this entire universe, so you can never say that something is zero. There's just nothing existing. The closest Jainism, in my view, comes to zero is what Jain says. This is lok. This is everything is lok, universe. And what happens outside lok, Jainism calls it alok, the opposite of lok. And so this, according to Jain philosophy, is absolutely pure vacuum. Nothing exists here. Not a single particle of matter or not even a single soul. So what exists here is just pure space. There is nothing here. So not even, so if Bhagwan Mahavir was around here, they would be able to, through their foresight, be able to see what, see in the sense it's all empty space. But nothing exists outside. So in the literal sense, that's absolutely pure vacuum. But everything within the universe, you cannot say it's pure vacuum. There will be something or the other. So in my view, something which comes closest to zero is something, the Jain concept of alok. That anything outside this lok here is just pure space. Nothing existed. So even our Tirthankars, as we believe in Jain philosophy, they're the Chitchila. They're at the boundary of lok and alok. So even the Tirthankars cannot sort of go beyond here. This is alok. So this is the limit of the universe. And even when you say we go into Chitchila, Chitchila would be at the top, the boundary of lok and alok here. So that's basically just exploring the concept of zero, and also to realize that we don't, strictly speaking, like zero means it does not exist, it's not there. Yes, it's not there, I cannot see it, that's fine. One thing, two things, zero things. But the concept of, this is here and now it's not there or nothing. There's nothing here, nothing does not mean it does not exist. That's quite important to realize. Okay, so that's, any questions on zero? Okay, so now let's go to the next one. Number 1. Okay, so in this one here, let's look at some of the concepts here. First of all, let's look at this one here. 1 looks pretty much similar to I. 1 is I. And looking at the concept of I, it's been a perennial question amongst the philosophers of the past, Greek philosophers, even the sort of Eastern philosophers. Who am I? That's one of the most kind of classical questions people have been asking. Who am I? What am I existing for? Is this, and the general, even there's a kind of a meditational technique, it's koham. So people will just literally repeat that word, koham, koham, just trying to think, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And essentially, if you actually even type soham into there's a very nice meditation which will come in YouTube, and it's literally soham. And so the response generally given that who am I? I am that. So I'm that. And what is that? So the more you ponder, according to the philosophies, that I am that means I am that Atma. So let's look at this concept of this one. If you're just looking at each one of us individually, who am I or what exists? It's just you. Because you could be going in a different universe. Suppose you were in moon. For you, nothing of this exists. Earth, nothing exists. Cars don't exist. Houses don't exist. It's just you. And suppose you are in absolutely a single person in a distant universe. So from that perspective, who am I? It's just you and your soul, just Atma. And then you could say, okay, you could use different words. Okay, koham, soham, I am that. And what is that? That could have different meanings depending on your train of thought. That means I am soul, I am spirit, I am Atma, I am Chaitanya, whatever name you call it. It's a very complex thing. How do we substantiate what is Atma, what is soul? And eventually you will come there, because you will then come through your inference that I'm not the body, I'm the soul. And that's really the bottom line of the Jain philosophy. Really honing that. If someone asks, what's the one single fundamental, but I don't want to learn anything about the Jain philosophy or Eastern philosophy for that matter. Many philosophies believe in soul. but not the Buddhist philosophy. Buddhist philosophies don't believe in the concept of soul. So when they say Bhagavan Buddha achieved nirvana, nirvana means emptiness. So he is now liberated from earth, and what's happened? He's now gone into emptiness, shunyata. So Buddhism per se don't believe in, they believe in change, they believe in perpetual change, but they don't believe per se in a concept of soul, that there is an entity such as a soul which exists. So Hindus do believe in Atma. So again, so that's really the critical point, that if you remove everything else in the universe, that one single thing which exists from your perspective is my soul. Because right now you can say, oh, yeah, table shape, but if you go away, the table does not exist. But no matter where you are in your migration of your journey, always what's going to come with you is your soul. So that eventually is like that one thing. Now let's look at a separate, different concept. What does Jainism define as knowledge? What is knowledge? The definition of knowledge according to Jainism is knowledge of one is knowledge of all. That's generally how knowledge is defined in Jainism. Can you think about that? Is it really true? Knowledge of one, if I've got just knowledge of one thing, I've got knowledge of all. And knowledge of all means keval gnan. That means I've got absolute infinite knowledge. If I've got knowledge of one, I've got knowledge of infinite. Does that make sense? No, Chirag? Let's think about it. You take any item, take a piece of this. So I want to know what is this, Just one single item. I'll say, okay, first of all, I'll start with the color, I'll look at the shape, it's got graphite in here, graphene, then I'll say, oh, what is graphene? It's got carbon molecules, this, that, then other, you can go on and on and on. Someone can even do a PhD on this to find out what are the different particles of matter. But if I want to know this, then the next question is, this is a pencil, but this is not a pen. Oh, then what is a pen? And you can just go on and on. So if I want to have knowledge of one, I've almost got knowledge of everything else. This is not a soul, it's matter. Oh, then what is soul? And you can just go and on. So if you have got absolute knowledge of one thing, which means that if I want to have the knowledge of this, I also need to know that it is not chair, it is not table, it is not this. So by extrapolation, it's infinite. If I want to know about just this one single thing, I need to know about what is this and what this is not. And by definition, that means I've got knowledge of everything. I've got keval gnan. I'm absolutely knowledgeable about everything because I know what this is and what this is not. So according to that, it's just amazing how knowledge of one is our definition of keval gnan. That Bhagavan Mahavir has got keval gnan means he's got absolute infinite knowledge. He's got knowledge of every single thing and all the modes. Like that's what even keval gnan does. I might know what this pencil is right now, and then if I break it, and what are the particles of matter going to go into something else? Or like gold. Right now it's a gold, and then the particles of gold will go from a necklace to a earring or anything else. So all the different modes. That's the knowledge of the infinite knowledge. So that's amazing thing to know that that's, so knowledge of one is knowledge of all. Now, according to Jain philosophy, what we believe is there is a single universe. So according to us, like what is one? We have one universe. When you look at scientists right now used to believe that there are about 100 million galaxies. Now with the new, what's that, the Halley's satellite which they sent across to the space, because of that new technology, they said there could be 200 galaxies, 200 billion galaxies. According to Jains, and this is my personal understanding is, whatever we believe, Jains believe that there's only single universe. We are here in the middle of the universe, and whatever science portrays, all the galaxies, all the planets, whatever is there, it's all in this region around here. Then this is the hellish region, this is the Devlok region, and this will be the Siddhshila. So according to us, there is one universe. But this single universe can have so many different things here. All the galaxies, everything which science believes or is trying to discover is all contained within this area here. But what is one is just one universe, a single universe. So that's what my understanding is, that everything else could be is just within this single universe which Jains believe in. And this is what they call lok. Lok means, and that's again lokasa ujjo gare. So akha lokma jene pragat કરે છે. તીર્થંકરમાં આપણે આવે છે લોકસ ઉજ્જો ગરે ધમ્મ તીર્થ હરે. So akha lokma તીર્થંકર ભગવાન બધાને પ્રકાશ knowledge આપે છે. So how to get out of this lok and get into Siddhshila. So that's again that beginning word lokas ujjo gare, lok, that's coming from the word lok. Now another interesting aspect of one is most of the religions right now believe in a monotheistic God. That there is only one God, and you should believe in only one single God. So for Islam would be one. For example, Christianity would be saying there's again, that's a bit debatable. I'm not too sure how Christianity is defined, because they sometimes believe in the Trinity, Holy Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So but if you look at the Hinduism, there'll be the Brahma concept, that Brahma is the only God and everything else is illusory, Maya. Everything else is Ulu, but there's only one single God. So most of these philosophies believe in this monotheistic religion. So if you say one, if you ask any people with most philosophy, yes, there's only one God. But how does a Jain view? Jains don't believe in that single concept of God. And they don't, first of all, even believe in the single concept of God, and even more so, they don't believe in that God who has created the universe and they're in charge and the controller of destiny. Okay, the God is going to dictate what's going to happen to you by praying to God. So Jains don't believe in that concept of Ulu. So Jains believe different Tirthankars are there, and we all could be gods. So essentially for us, how many gods there are? Infinite number of gods. So in this Sitchila here, right at the top, how many souls are there? Infinite number of souls. And how many will go in the future? Infinite number of souls. So we all, when we get rid of our karmas and we all go to Sitchila, all of us have got the capacity to become God. And that's for us the definition of God. It's a little bit confusing, because sometimes in books, when we say Dev Deviyo, they are classified as gods. And why is that? Because they've got supernatural capabilities. They can transform themselves, they can go to all these extra powers. So because of that, like Padmavati Devi. But if I had to translate that into English, I will say Padmavati God or goddess. So sometimes you call gods and goddesses, but that's a different concept. That, according to us, would be angels. Angels. Deviyo would be angels for us. But in some of these books which you read, then they will be designated as gods. Okay, so that's that one there. Now, concept of one. How many of you, when you were young, were fascinated by first, like number one? Who was the first man on the moon? Who was the first to do this? Who was the first to discover that? And anyone were fascinated by this concept? Yeah? Raise your hand. Yeah? Everyone? Many of you? Okay. I mean, I myself was, and I'll just show you. So this is the diary which, when I was a teenager, which I used to actually write. So when I was probably 12, 13 years old. And in this diary here, I'll just... Okay, so for example, when I was the first dictionary was written by an Englishman called Richard Hewlett in 1552. The first UK census was this. The first telephone was Alexander Graham Bell. So all these things were kind of written by the fascination of first. Who was the first to do everything? So this is again a diary when I myself was probably 12, 13 years old. So in Jainism, when you look at the concept of, and even more so, that fascination of first still carried on. So even when the kids were being born, I maintained an Excel spreadsheet to write when was the first time they started eating, when was the first time they started walking. So I've got this Excel spreadsheet, which is even carried on. So about a 20-year history of an Excel spreadsheet of like some important milestones. The first time they did this, the first time they did that, or something like that. So this, even to today, I've got almost a 20-year a diary of different events. So it's amazing fascination of sort of important facts or the first of something, and which goes on. So if you look at the Jain philosophy right now, what's the first of everything? Where does it all come from? It all comes from Bhagwan Rishabhdev. So according to us, so we have got obviously Tirthankar Mahavir, which is the 24th Tirthankar. But if we say the first Tirthankar was Adeshwar Bhagwan, we essentially believe that the entire civilization, as we know right now, began from him. He's the one who taught Asi, Masi, Krasi. Who was the first to teach fire and food? Bhagwan Rishabhdev. Who was the first person to Masi means tools? The first person to how to make tools? Bhagwan Rishabhdev. First person to use weapons to defend yourself? Bhagwan Rishabhdev. So everything, even who was the first emperor, the first marriage ceremony, the first of this, almost every single first, like even tap, Varsi tap, why do we, when you do Varsi tap, who was the first person to do it? Bhagwan Rishabhdev. His grandson saying, Bhagwan has fasted, let me give him not arms. Because people what used to do was when Bhagwan was fasting and in silence for many years, people used to say, oh, Bhagwan ekla forest mache, oh, tamne su joye che, should I give you some cow? Should I give you some ornaments? Should I give you this? People didn't have that concept. And then his grandson realized that my grandfather has been fasting for so long, maybe he's really hungry, and he gave that sugarcane juice. And that's when the concept of this has carried on. So according to our philosophy, obviously this is subjective, because if you then talk to the Hindus or some other people, they'll have their own version of things. But according to the Jain philosophy, everything of this first, the fascination of first begins with Lord Rishabdev, the first of almost everything. Now, when we talk about that, who am I? Obviously, when I say when am I, the first basic simple question means I am a body, because that's the most visible thing. So essentially that goes to the next one, number 2. But we all know that I'm not the body. So according to the Jain philosophy, there are 2 things, Jiva and Ajiva in the universe. But let's just talk of the Jainism believes, if someone asked, like scientists are very curious to find out what's in this universe, what's beyond. According to Jainism, and that's how I understand Jainism, that if someone asks me that what are the different things in the universe, can you name 6 different things? And according to Jainism, I've got a lot of conviction that what Jainism says, it's quite true, that no matter where you went, whether you went to Mars, whether you went to Uranus, whether you went to the sun, no matter where you went, there are only 6 elements in the entire universe. And by universe, I don't mean Earth, I mean the entire universe. Whether in the hellish beings, there are just 6, and Jainism says there are only 6 things which exist in the entire universe. And the 6 things are 1, 2, 3, so 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So one is Jiv, so consciousness. So that's one thing which exists, Jiv. That's one of the 6 things we achieve. So consciousness is one thing. Then Ajiv, within Ajiv, then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 and 1, 6. So these are the 6 things. What exists? Pudgalastikaya, matter, Pudgal. And that's how the word comes. Pudgal, Pulan and Galan, fusion and fission. So that's exactly what the word Pudgal means. And that's what chemistry does. All matters interact or break. That's a whole thing of chemistry. Something joining together, molecules, H2O. Molecules getting together, or you can separate them out, so pull and so that's Pudgal. All matter would be classified as this. So whether you went into Mars, they've sent a spectrometer there to find out what are the different elements there. Everything will be particles of matter. Maybe they're not in the periodic table, which you found out maybe some other elements, but there'll be matter. It cannot be anything else. It just has to be some matter. Then let's come to this later. Then there's Akastikaya, space. Space is one thing. Kal is time, and then Dharmastikaya and Adharmastikaya. Generally, when people this means religion and anti-religion. That does not what Dharmastika and Adharmastika means. This is very similar to concept of what Einstein came up with, concept of ether. That how are things moving? How can some particles of matter move from here to there? So he said there has to be some substance. How can something move from here to here? And what Jainism has called this concept of Dharmastika and Adharmastika. Dharmastika means auxiliary cause of motion. That because of this matter prevalent in the entire universe, it enables motion to occur. So for example, if I want to move from here to here, because Dharmastikaya is around, I can actually move. If it was not around, I cannot move. And a very simple analogy which they've given is like a fish in water. A fish wants to move in water, and if there's no water, even if the fish wants to move, it cannot move. So that water has become like a Dharmastika. It's become medium of motion. It does not cause the fish to swim. Fish can choose to remain stationary. But if the fish chooses to swim and move from here to there, then because of Dharmastikaya, it enables it to move. So right now I can remain as still as I want. But if I want to move, it's because of Dharmastika I can move. If it wasn't there, then I could not move. And the opposite is Adharmastikaya. Because if Dharmastikaya was not there, if I started moving, I'll just keep on moving. I'll not be able to stop. So Adharmastikaya cause is an auxiliary cause of stoppage. So these are the 6 elements in the entire universe. So we already discussed 6 now. So when we come to 6, so that's one thing. But why did I circle this one? Pudgalistikaya sometimes could have particles of matter grouped together. So you can have one entity with lots of particles of matter. Dharmastika and Adharmastikaya is just one unit throughout. It's not broken down. So so you can say there's a particle of matter, there's one matter here and another matter here, and I can bring them together. But Dharmastika and Adharmastikaya, it's just one unit. It's almost like a blanket throughout. It's not broken down. You cannot say there's a piece of Dharmastikaya here and there's a piece of Dharmastikaya here. So Jains described that these 2 things here are prevalent throughout. So those are single units. Any questions before we move to question number? Yeah.
Where does gravity fit into
Sorry, where does?
Where does gravity fit into those definitions?
So gravity, how does gravity? So gravity would be like a force, right? And the force would be, it's kind of an energy. So it's an energy which causes different things to sort of move. So that gravity would be, let's think about it. So gravity is energy. It's not consciousness, and because it's energy, so it would be like it's a force, kinetic energy. Yeah, again, I think it would be a result of matter, because what happens, gravity, you have a massive body, and because of that massive body, that's actually causing something to attract. So if you did not have that massive body, so like if you got Earth and you got other massive body and the moon, and so as we know that because of the tides, that gravity would occur. So it's because of that matter you're having that resultant force because of that matter. So it's a consequence of matter. Because even if you know F is equal to m1 times m2 over the distance squared, and then there's also F is equal to mg, mass times gravity. Force is equal to mass times gravity. So if I say what is G, G is equal to F over m.
So it falls under the second one, Dharmastika, gravity.
No, Dharmastika would not fall under here. I mean, I think I think I might need to clarify that because it's causing something to move, would it fall under this? Because Dharmastika is an auxiliary cause of motion. So now, does it fall under this, or does it come under a property of Pudgalastikaya, is something which I'm not too sure of. Because you could say that matter has got certain properties: touch, taste, color, smell. So whether gravity becomes a property of matter, or whether this becomes, because it's causing motion, gravity is causing motion, that's something I'm not too sure of.
It's not universal, right? Gravitational force is not, as you said, Dharmastika has to be like one continuous motion in the whole of
That's
the
right.
balloon. So gravitational force is not like all across, right? I mean, we know it's on Earth and Moon and all that, but then existing the whole.
Dharmastika would be, if there was a Devlok here, if Devlok wanted to move from one place to another place, then they can only move because of the Dharmastika being present.
Can it be gravity? It cannot be gravity. That's what I'm trying to
It could be, because how do we know what's up there because of huge, even in the hellish regions here. So if they are, because gravity would be any heavy body would cause gravity. There are two bodies here, then the attraction will be that force. Okay. Okay, let's move on to number 2. Okay, 2 is a very important concept within Jainism. Let's start off with, okay, Jeev and Ajeev is very simple. If someone asked very simply, what exists in the entire universe, in the entire universe, a simple answer would be 2 things: Jeev and Ajeev. That's nothing else. And when I say the entire universe, it's a really liberating thought that you are talking about not only Earth and all these different planets here. You can talk about heavenly beings, hellish regions. No matter where you are, there are only 2 things existing. I mean, that's amazing, because generally, you know, your curious mind says, what's out there, what's out there? And if you read the scriptures, then this actually gives you some sort of satisfaction. If you believe in it, again, it's a question of faith and your belief, that if you believe in it, then it says that essentially what exists in the entire universe is just 2 things: Jeev and Ajeev. Nothing else exists. And that's again a very powerful one, because Jeev means not only humans. Jeev could be hellish beings, could be microorganisms, ekindriya, beindriya, so all forms of life in the Jeev. And Ajeev, as you know, it includes all particles of matter. So 2 things is Jeev and Ajeev. So that's a now, question of 2 is very, very prevalent, very prominent, because if we really start a simple question, who am I? Then the question comes is, okay, yes, I'm the body. That's a very simple thing. We can all know that I'm the body. But then the more you think about it, okay, what's the difference? And that's what exactly even the ancient people started thinking. What's the difference? If the body can talk, if the body can hear, if the body can talk, what happens when somebody dies? Then why can't that happen? You know, why can't they talk? Why can't they hear? So there has to be something beyond the body, and then through extrapolation you can then think there has to be something else, and that, as we call, is the Atma, Chaitanya, or consciousness, the spirit is that. So dualism is something which you believe, that I am one, but I'm 2 in 1. Am I existing right now? Who am I? I cannot say I'm the body, I cannot say I'm the Atma. Because if I'm just purely the Atma, then I would be in Shichila. So I am 2 in 1. So right now I can see myself as 1, but me, you and everyone else, we are 2 in 1, duality. Whereas a table would be just saying it's just particles of matter. There's no consciousness in it. Stone has got, it's a single entity. But us, we would be 2 in 1. We have got consciousness and you've got matter. Now, this question of dualism was also very, very pertinent. Like even the old Pluto and all the Greek philosophers started thinking about it. They obviously did not have the concept of Atma, or they probably did not discuss the concept of soul. And they started really thinking, is there something difference between matter and mind? They really think the mind was something sort of, you know, quite extraordinary, mind. As they say, mind over matter. And so they somehow tried to come to the same concept. Okay, we are two different separate things. And they came up with this Cartesian duality, matter over mind. Trying to really grasp with this similar kind of concept. Okay, we are two different things, soul and body. That beyond the body there is something else. Mind, I cannot see the mind. This is the brain, but where is the mind? And so they really then came up with this duality of matter. And obviously physicalism, idealism, and neutral, because this all kind of stuff, all grappling with the question of, you know, matter over mind. Now dualism is also very prevalent. As we know in this, in our common experience, everything is in opposites. Love, hate, like, dislike. And if you look at bondage, how do we attract karma, according to Jain philosophy, it's literally just two things which are causing this karma. Rag and dvesh, hatred and dislikes. These are the absolutely just two things, and that's why our Bhagavan applies vitrag. Vitrag Paramatma. Vitrag. So it's just a simple concept that our Tirthankars have now become without any rag. And no rag means no likes and dislikes. So it's just a simple concept that if we can minimize this likes and dislikes in whatever we do, then we're getting more closer and closer to our pure self. So two of this bondage of karma is just two things, rag and dvesh. When we talk of the four kashayas, we come later on, those are the ones which sort of cause different types of karma. But why do the karmas come to us? It's just literally of two things, rag and dvesh. Again, love, hate, good, evil, pap, and war. And this actually, when you have technical papers, papers on philosophy, they call this thesis and antithesis. So everything is thesis and antithesis. So that essentially means pap hoy to punya hase, peace to war, good and evil, love and hate. There's always these pairs coming along. Even in terms of balance. So we have 2 legs, 2 hands, 2 ears. God knows if you had 2 minds, what would happen? Would you have balance of mind? So essentially, that's quite common within this 2 of everything. If you look at karma, karmas are again classified into 2 main types, ghati karmas and aghati karmas. And a very simple, so obviously as I said, as you can see, how we are describing these different things, we're jotting around. We're going from the universe to the karmic theory, we're going to different concepts. And the objective is not to understand each one of them in detail, but to explain through numbers the different aspects of philosophy. So karma, ghati and aghati karmas, in a very simple way to explain that is that ghati karmas defiles the actual nature of the soul, whereas aghati karmas does not. And a simple way to understand that is, if you had a car and if it had the car was written off, that you cannot even recognize your car. Hamari gadi hati, it met with an accident and it's been written off in such a way that if you saw the car here right now, you'll say, I can't even recognize the car. And so it's totally changed the whole nature. Whereas if you had a small bump, you can say, ah, gadi che, but yeah, there's a small bump here, I can recognize the car. So those are the aghati karmas. They don't distort the nature of the soul. The ghati karmas totally distort the nature of the soul. Either through wrong faith, you start believing in something totally opposite, or your knowledge goes away, and so therefore then again they'll be broken down into different aspects. But simply speaking, karmas are of 2 types, ghati and aghati karmas. Some karmas which totally defile the nature of the soul, so those are the most serious ones. So mohinya karma, which is the king of all the karmas, is something which we want to get rid of. So that's aghati karma. Aghati karma would be nam karma. Anu nambo saru che, status anu che. So nam karma, gotra karma, status in the society or status wherever you are. Ayushya karma, vednya karma, pain. Aaj mane dukhe che, aaj na dukh, so vednya karma. So those are all aghati karma. Whereas the other ones are the ghati karmas. Obviously 2 main sects of Jainism, Digambar and Swetambar, and then again many separate sects, but again 2 main sects within the Jain philosophy. Types of knowledge. this is quite interesting. Jainism says that there are two main types of knowledge. Eventually we'll come later that Jainism classifies knowledge as of 5 types. Mati Gnan, Shruta Gnan, that's a bit later. But generally, types of knowledge is mediate and immediate. So essentially it means direct and indirect knowledge. And it's very, very exactly opposite of what we believe in. So when I say I've got direct knowledge, if I can touch through my senses, I say this is my direct knowledge. Okay, I understand this. But if someone explains to me some abstract concept, that's indirect knowledge. Someone in Jainism is exactly the opposite. Jainism classifies direct knowledge as a knowledge acquired through the power of the soul. And any knowledge which I acquire through the senses is indirect knowledge. So exact opposite of our understanding. I'll say if I can touch this, then I've got direct knowledge. I can understand this. If I don't know something else, if you're talking about abstract notion, that's indirect knowledge for me. But from a spiritual point of view, direct knowledge is a knowledge of the soul. So some people have got intuition power. And they'll touch your pulse and they'll say, oh, tamne aa bimari che. Or some people I've heard of some people in India or somewhere else could sort of look at you and describe, oh, tamaru ghar London ma aam che, ke tamaru aam che. So you have, sitting here, you have got knowledge of something far beyond, and that's through the purity of the soul. So that's kind of intuitive power, intuition. It would be something like a power of the soul. That's a direct knowledge. And knowledge acquired through senses, hearing, touch, smell, that's indirect knowledge. So again, so those are the how the types of knowledge are broken down. Questions? I think we'll go to number 3. I was hoping to go to number 100. Any questions? Okay. 3. 3 is a phenomenal number in Jainism. There's so many things which come under 3. I mean, and again, as I said, these are some of the things which I've just come up with. I'm sure if you, through your own reading or through your own self, there'll be many other things you can come up with, 1, 2, and 3. This is just a snippet of some of the things which I could just think of. So first thing is, where should we start off with? Okay, this one here. Jain believes that we've seen that there's a universe, a single universe. But આપણે કેટલા પ્રેયર્સમાં આવે છે ત્રિલોકના નાથ ત્રી જગત. So that these kind of words આપણે કહીને ત્રિલોકના નાથ આપણા સ્તવનમાં પણ ઘણીવાર આવે છે ત્રણ લોકના નાથ. So according to the Jain universe, which would be this one here, we believe that there are 3 parts to this universe. The middle layer, Madhya Lok, Urdhva Lok, which is upper region, and the region which is below. So this is the middle part of the region, the middle world, the heavenly beings, all the devs and devis here, and all the hellish beings here. So essentially we are saying, Bhagwan, you are the Nath, you are the Lord of these 3 worlds, 3 Jagat. So that's three parts to this universe. So we are here, Simandar Swami again would be here. So when we say, okay, Bhagwan Simandar Swami is in Mahavidya Kshetra, that all will be in the middle part of the universe. So that comes, even if you look at matter has exactly got 3 states of matter, solid, liquid, and gas. There's no other dimension which so far we've known that it all would come under these 3 things. So even when they send these rovers into Mars, they've got the spectrometers, they'll be looking at whether is there a liquid there, have I found water, or are there any gases there? So they'll take some particles of whatever it is, burn it and seeing what vapor comes up to find out what chemicals it's got there, or solid, liquid, or gas. So these are the 3 states of matter. Even look at electricity, a 3-point plug. Even if you look at the pylons, they've always got 3 wires here. And those are the 3, the live, neutral, and the earth. So again, amazing how nature and electricity is all to do with kind of 3. Even our plugs have got the 3-point plug. 3-point plug is. This is very common. The 3 jewels of the Jain religion, Samyak Darshan, Samyak Gnan, Samyak Charitra, right faith, right conduct, right knowledge. So that 3, and again, I mean, I remember Sadhi Shilapiji, last time when she came here, I think she touched upon this in her public lectures, and just talking about each one of them at Ekta Center. So you can literally expand on each one of them in so great detail. Just on these 3 things. And that's how the Tattva Sutra actually starts, that the path to liberation is through these 3 things. So essentially, what they're saying is if you want to get to moksha, just these 3 things will lead us up to there. Can you imagine just 3, power of 3, taking there. 3 pronouncements, Tripadi. This is again another phenomenal concept that what they say is when Bhagavan Mahavir was there, and when Gautam Swami went before him, and he, before Gautam Swami was actually a Brahmin scholar, and he was not believing in any of these Jain principles, and he had some doubts in his mind. So when he came to Lord Mahavir, he actually came with a bit of arrogance, because at that time he thought that I'm the greatest scholar, there's no one else. And when they used to have debates, he used to actually win over all the other debates. So he's saying that, why are these people actually going to this some Lord Mahavir and not to me? And so he goes to Lord Mahavir, and sort of Lord Mahavir through his Kevaldan says, Gautam, come here, I know you got this doubt in your mind, and this is the resolution for the doubt in your mind. And then he is astounded. And then what Jains believe, that Bhagavan Mahavir told just 3 words to each of his 11 disciples, Ganadhars. Just 3 words. They are saying, what is religion? And Upne eva, Vigne eva, and Dhu eva. Just 3 things. Just these 3 things are what he mentioned to these 11 disciples. And just based on these 3 words, the entire agams have come up. So that's what they say. So all these agams and all the knowledge which you've got on all these agams have literally come up with these three words. And what does these 3 words mean? That what is life? Life is all about sustenance. So life is origination, destruction, and persistence. So that's what life is about. And what does that mean? Let's just take a simple example of gold. You can create a golden bangle. You can destroy a golden bangle and make it a ring. But throughout, the goldness remains there. The goldness does not go away. So persistence. So creation, destruction, and persistence. And it's such a broad knowledge that if you look at the kind of the Hindu concept, they believe in this origination and destruction, Lord of Shankar and Shiva and everything. If you look at the concept of Buddhism, they believe in this change. Something is originating, something is getting destroyed. Something is originating, something is getting destroyed. But they don't tend to emphasize a lot on the persistence. Or for example, what Hinduism believes in, Brahma. Brahma is the only thing which is existing. Everything else is illusionary. So they don't believe in change, the Hindu, or at least they don't portray. So Jainism says everything exists, everything gets destroyed, and in that process, everything subsists. So can you imagine that on these 3 words, Gautam Swami must have thought about this in such so detail that you can actually then start writing a whole agam on this. And it's not too difficult to believe that, because remember what we started with earlier, knowledge of one is knowledge of all. If I just thought about these 3 words, then your mind starts sticking. What did Bhagavan Mahavir mean? Oh, he meant this, he meant that, he meant that. And you can imagine how 12 volumes of agams were written just on these 3 concepts. So and that's what Jains believe in. These 3 words led to the creation of the entire Jain philosophy. Okay, 3. When you look at vows, then again the vows are broken down into 12 anuvrats, and out of them the 3 they are gunavrats: Digvrat, Bhogupvrat, Anarthadan Vrat. So I won't get into detail of those vrats, but again you can see where the 3 comes in there. Three types of mantra. I was quite surprised with this. When you think of food, it's very simple. And many times we've read कि केउ खावानु केवी ना होय तो सात्विक खावानु होय, राजसिक खावानु होय, and tamasic खावानु होय. So in the Ayurveda, this is a very common concept that these are the 3 types of food which is available. But if you look at it from a mantra point of view, it was quite amazing to see. Sattvic means mantras which lead to a better spiritual life and helping for purifying one's soul. Rajasic means helps mantras in worldly matters and used for bringing worldly results, which are beneficial to one's health and prosperity, but not to do with the soul, purification of the soul. Mane a problem thyo che, mane a joye che, ulu joye che. So those will be rajasic, so asking for material benefits and gains. And tamasic mantras are negative mantras which are used to harm someone or stop them doing certain things. It's very possible because even it's comes in our scriptures. Gosalak, he was a disciple of Lord Mahavir. He stayed with Mahavir for many years and acquired lots of supernatural powers, and eventually used those powers against Lord Mahavir himself. So Tejolesya. So if I'm angry with you, there's some certain power, I can literally do something and fire can just literally go. So things which you have seen in the Mahabharata. So those kind of things. That you have got certain energies and you can project heat and energy and saying, I want to destroy you. But eventually he didn't succeed. But we know that people who can do mantras, you can acquire lots of energies and you can use that energies in a very negative way also. Very similar to even if you look at the atomic bomb. So we've now got knowledge of the nuclear fission. The nuclear fission can actually generate electricity. You've got a whole industry which can generate electricity based on just nuclear fission. So that's something beneficial. But that same technology is now used to create the Hiroshima bomb. So you can actually see how it's quite similar, the spirituality and the physical things are. So three things there. This concept of Shalya is very, very common. Shalya. Apna prayers ave che, 18 paap sthanak ave che. My last che, Mithyatva Shalya. Shalya. So Shalya means thorn, essentially thorns. And what does thorns mean? These are harmful stimuli or stings which distract a person to attain the right belief. So what are the thorns which prick us, which prevents us from getting the right belief? You start getting the wrong belief. And the three things, or three shalyas, is they call it in Jainism, are Maya, deceit. So that's kind of a, you know, your mind is something, but you want to portray something else. Your deceit. But the twin personality, that's kind of the Maya. You showing a very good face, but the deep down inside, you start feeling something totally different. Nidan, hankering for worldly pleasures and fame, and mithyatva, false belief. So these are the three shalyas which they say we need to get rid of. Okay. I think it's 9:15, so I think we'll leave 4 to the next lesson. But this is the kind of the idea of what I thought was kind of interesting to look at the different aspects of the philosophy and then just to explore them through numbers. And that sort of makes it, and obviously there are certain things which might inspire you to learn more, and then you can obviously go around and learn and research them more. But it just really broadens your horizon of how much more we can learn about the philosophy just through numbers. Jai Jain.